Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Vanessa and today we are going to be learning how to smell like our favorite books. One of the things that I love is when you smell a smell and it just like makes you think of something or it makes you feel something, whether it's like a memory from the past or a certain place or a certain person. And it just got me thinking that like with how easy it is to transport ourselves into those feelings by smell, how easy would it be to transport ourselves into our favorite books if we could just find the right smell? You know what I mean? So today I have a list of 6 books and 6 perfumes that I think just go together really, really well. And the perfumes that I'm going to be using in this video are all Dossier perfumes, and they were also kindly sent to me from Dossier, which is a perfume brand that I've just been really loving lately and really enjoying. I really appreciate what they do because basically their whole thing is that they are making perfumes that are inspired by designer perfumes that are usually costing hundreds and hundreds of dollars, 500 times what the perfume is actually worth just because it has like a celebrity's name or a designer's name attached to it. And that is where Dossier becomes really cool because you can get a scent that is inspired by and smells very similar to these designer $250 perfumes for $30 instead. So it makes these scents accessible and more affordable. That's just really cool on its own. But then Dossier is also a brand that cares about things like being vegan and cruelty-free and using non-toxic and ethically sourced ingredients and being eco-friendly and sustainable, which are all things that I really care about. And a lot of other big perfume names don't, so it's cool to have options that also feel not just more affordable but also more ethical, and that's a really hard combination to find sometimes. So yes, all of the perfumes that we're going to be using today are Dossier perfumes, and I will leave a link below to the Dossier website in case you're interested in any of them or if you want to check them out. So without further ado, let's talk about how to smell like your favorite book. Or more specifically, my favorite book, which is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is my all-time favorite book, favorite story. So I thought about what it is that makes Pride and Prejudice so special and what I love when I think of Pride and Prejudice. And I think what I love is that there's, first of all, this lightness to it. It's very funny, it's very lighthearted, it's a romance story, and there's a sweetness in that. But there's also like this properness to it and this formality that I think Jane Austen is so good at capturing in her writing. But underneath all of that, what I love the most about Pride and Prejudice is that there's something so warm and familiar. There's just something so cozy and safe about it as well. And so the perfume that I think smells like Pride and Prejudice to me is Dossier's Powdery Orange Flower. And this perfume is inspired by Valentino's Voce Viva, if you've ever smelled that. But the top notes of this are mandarin, bergamot, and ginger, which again is just kind of that like, it feels very Regency, does it? Like bergamot and like the ginger and the mandarin. Like I just picture like little sweets at tea time or something like that. And then the middle notes I think is really kind of what sells it. And that is orange flower, white flowers, and gardenia. And it makes me think of like walking through a garden, you know? I feel like Regency romance is all about the gardens. Just like taking walks through the gardens, finding a moment to speak together alone in the garden, Darcy running into Elizabeth in the gardens of Pemberley. Florals also bring to mind like springtime and that hopefulness and like the blossoming of love and stuff. And then I want to talk about the base notes: vanilla, tonka bean, and musk. I think that all of those things really soften the fragrance and give it that just feeling of like softness and warmth and coziness. Yes, if you want to smell like Pride and Prejudice, I highly recommend Powdery Orange Flower. The next book I have that might be one of your favorites, it's one of my favorites, is Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. It is like a really sweet children's story about a little girl having a fun adventure, but there is something a little bit dark and a little bit just strange and weird about it. You know, like the Cheshire Cat. He's a little strange, he's a little dark. The Queen of Hearts beheading everybody, the like mad tea party. You know what I mean? It's something that is like sweetness, but just twisted a little bit to be weird. And the perfume that I smelled that made me feel like that same exact thing was this one called Floral Marshmallow. And I know what you're thinking, but marshmallows are so sweet and florals are so sweet. And it is, it's a very sweet perfume, but there's also something that's just like a little bit strange. And I think the reason for that is that you have all of these sweet notes in this perfume. The top notes are marshmallow, bergamot again, orange blossom, honeysuckle, jasmine, and then the base notes are amber, vanilla, and mud. Like those are very sweet things. But then you also have neroli, which is a citrus scent, and it can be very sweet, but it also like has a bitterness to it, and people have described it as a green smell. And I don't know if it's that like greenness, like kind of a foresty smell that I'm picking up on, or if it might be the orris, which some people have said smells a little bit like suede. Makes that sugary sweet marshmallow scent have a little bit of like a black licorice twist to it, and not overpowering. I know a lot of people don't like black licorice, but it's not like super strong. It's just a small little twinkle of something that's a little bit strange and a little bit dark. Oh my god. And like the marshmallow and the vanilla and the bergamot, think of like the Mad Tea Party and the unbirthday cake, and then like the flowers is like, oh my gosh, the wildflowers, the singing wildflowers. I don't know. It's perfect. I think that this is a perfect match. So if you've ever wanted to smell like Alice in Wonderland, consider trying Floral Marshmallow. And then the next book that I think might be a lot of people's favorite book is Lord of the Rings. We all love Lord of the Rings. We all would love to smell like a hobbit. I mean, maybe not like a hobbit, but we'd like to smell like that feeling of coziness and joy and happiness, I think. And not just the hobbits, but also like the dwarves have this warm like fire crackling. It's so cozy, and like all the times that they're at like an inn or around a campfire. The perfume that I thought really drew those things to mind was this one called Woody Chestnut. So Woody Chestnut is inspired by a perfume called Replica by the Fireplace, which I actually smelled in the store one time and was so in love with it. It smells just like sitting around a fireplace, but it is so expensive. I think it's like $150 or something. There's no way. There's just no way. So when I saw that Dossier had a dupe of it, I was so excited, and honestly, it's a really good dupe. The top notes of this are pink pepper, orange blossom, and cloves. And I think that pepper and cloves, like it's so spicy already. You have this sense of like warmth and spice. And then the middle notes are chestnuts, gaiac wood, and cade wood. So you have this woodiness. And then the base notes are vanilla, so more of that cozy warm feeling. Along with Peru balsam and cedarwood, so more woodsiness, more feeling of being in the forest or around a campfire, or even like in a house with someone's fireplace going and there's firewood crackling. And I do think that this one is meant to be a little bit more of a masculine scent, or at least that's what it smells like to me. Yeah, when I smell this, I literally picture Aragorn. The dwarves all sitting down for dinner with Gandalf smoking his pipe in friggin' Bilbo's house. It's warm and cozy, but it also feels a little bit rough, a little bit masculine, a little gritty. So I just really think that if you want to smell like Lord of the Rings, Woody Chestnut would be the way to go. So those are some pretty classic and well-loved books that have stood the test of time through the ages, and I think a lot of people love and are a lot of people's favorite books. But what if your favorite book is something a little bit more contemporary, or even like a YA? What if your favorite book was To All the Boys I Loved Before by Ginny Han? I would say there's a good chance this is your favorite book because it is so sweet and it's so light, but also like fresh and fun. And there's also, again, I've said this about all of these, this is a very important buzzword I think when it comes to a favorite book, and that is warm and cozy. You know, there's something about it that just makes you feel like you're safe, wrapped up in a warm blanket. Being with Lara Jean and being with her family and baking cookies with her, you know what I mean? So I think that if you wanted to smell like that, you would want to be wearing a fruity almond. This one is inspired by Carolyn Herrera Good Girl, if you've ever smelled that. The top notes are almond and peach. The middle notes are orris, orange blossom, and tuberose. And then the base notes are tonka bean, vanilla, and cocoa. I mean, listen, the peach and the orange blossom and the tuberose, it's like this sweet kind of floral, again, this feeling of like romantic and falling in love and things are blossoming. It's a coming of age story. It's very light, it's very sweet, it's very fresh and fun. But then you also have like the almond, the tonka bean, the vanilla, the cocoa. Tell me that that is not Lara Jean's cookies. Baking cookies in the kitchen with Lara Jean. I think that this smell actually embodies Lara Jean as a person. So if you wanted to smell like To All the Boys I've Loved Before, fruity almond, 100%. I cannot recommend it enough. This is actually, I think, my favorite perfume out of all the ones that I've gotten from Dossier. But what if your favorite contemporary book is a little bit less sweet and a little bit more of something along the lines of A Court of Thorns and Roses? I would say that I actually know most of us prefer A Court of Mist and Fury to A Court of Thorns and Roses, but for the purposes of this perfume, the Spring Court is playing a big role here. I think that this first book, when Feyre goes to the Spring Court and it's just like flower overload, there's something about that experience that is just so visceral, and I think you can really capture that in a scent very well. And the perfume that made me think of that immediately was Floral Peony, which is an extremely floral scent. These notes, the top notes are peony, lychee, and lily. The middle notes are rose, magnolia, and freesia, and then the base notes are musk, cedarwood, and honey. Tell me that's not the Spring Court. All the flowers, first of all, you got the flowers down, obviously, but then like the cedarwood is the woods, the forest that Feyre's not supposed to go into. The honey is like all of the sweetness of like the food, but also the fae, I think, are a very honey-like, like a sickly sweet kind of vibe in this book as well. I think the musk is definitely Tamlin's presence here, and again, I'm gonna need us to focus on A Court of Thorns and Roses. We're not thinking about Akamath right now. But I know that Sarah J Maas is not everyone's favorite fairy book author. My favorite author who writes fairy books or books set in the fairy realm is actually Holly Black. What I love about Holly Black's fairy world is that she really captures like the earthiness and the woodsiness of the fairies, and she makes them feel a little bit wild. Holly Black's fairies are such a part of the earth. You know, they're not these magical otherworldly beings. They don't live in palaces and clouds in the sky. They live in holes in the ground. They live under logs. You know what I mean? And I think that that is what makes Holly Black's fairy books my favorite fairy books. And if you feel the same way and you're wondering how you can bring that essence into your life, I would recommend, instead of Floral Peony, Woody Peony. The top notes are peach, lychee, bergamot, and freesia. So already we have a little bit of fruitiness, a little bit of floralness. The middle notes are jasmine, orange blossom, peony, and white flowers, more florals. And then the base notes are musk, oak moss, and woods. Smelling this perfume is literally like walking into The Cruel Prince, and that was absolutely the first thing that I thought of when I smelled this perfume. This was the first perfume that I matched, because the moment I smelled it, I was like, where's Jude and Carden? Where are they? All of the like top and middle notes are so like soft and pleasant and flowery and like kind of what you think of when you think of the fairies. But then those base notes, especially the oak moss and the woods, brings it back down to earth. And it's like fairies are these wild earth creatures that live in the woods. God, like you're literally at an underground fairy party where there are all of these delicious foods and flowers and wines and fruits to eat. Don't be tempted by the fairy fruits. But there's also like creatures wandering around whose skin is made of wood and who have like moss growing as hair. You know what I mean? It's so good. Honestly, if you are a fan of Holly Black's style of fairies, Woody Peony is what you're gonna want to smell. And that is my advice on how to smell like your favorite book. I hope that one of these books is a book that you like, but even if not, maybe using this process on your favorite book and saying, okay, what is it that I like about my favorite book? What feeling does it evoke? What imagery do I see when I think of my favorite book? And then also what smells bring those same things to mind. You could really do this with any book. And I actually had a ton of fun matching these up and really thinking about that kind of stuff. It was a really, really fun little exercise and activity to do. And I hope that you enjoyed it. And I would love to know in the comments, what is your favorite perfume? Or if there are any scents that are like very strongly tied to a certain memory or book or experience or anything like that for you, I would love to hear about that too, because I just find it so interesting and so fun. So yeah, I hope that you liked this video. Thank you again to Dossier for sending me this perfume, and I will leave the Dossier link below. If any of these sounded cool to you, you can go grab them. I will leave the link below. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that I get to talk to you soon. Bye!